Hi guys, in this video we're making Izzy from Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and we're just going to make her in modelling paste, which I have here, and also I'm going to print off a picture just to use for guidance. So I'm starting with some modelling paste that I've just dyed brown. I'm going to roll a thick sausage shape and I'm going to bend it to create a little foot, put a little point to where the toes are. I'm just going to trim that with a knife to make a little boot, and I'm doing exactly the same with the other one. Just put them next to each other to compare the size. They only want to be quite small. I've got a deep purple here that I've used for the trousers. So again, I'm going to roll a long piece. I'll just trim the ends. And I'm going to put two pieces together for the legs. Now keep holding them against the boots so you can see how tall they are, because you'll actually find that the legs don't really need to be very long at all. I've just thinned them just a little bit at the bottom of each of the legs. And just add a bit of water to the top of the boots or the bottom of the legs. I'm going to add cocktail sticks into mine just to give them extra strength. You can use spaghetti instead if you like, or you can do it without. If you're in a bit more of a rush like I am, then the cocktail sticks will just help offer a bit more support. Roll thin a piece of brown again, so the same as the boot colour, and we're going to cut a long thin strip. I'm going to place this around the top of the boot and just trim at the back. Bit of water under there to make sure it sticks in place. You can use edible glue if you prefer, but I always find water works fine for me. And do the same with the other boot. I've dyed some pink, just a pale pink now for the body, and I'm rolling that into a little cone shape, and I'm just trimming the bottom so it's nice and flat. Again, just hold it in front of the cocktail sticks so you can see the height of them behind the body. So I'm going to trim the top off the cocktail sticks so that they don't poke out the top of my body when I stick that on. Pinch the edge of the body around the bottom just slightly so that when we put the body onto the legs we get like a little bit of overhang from the top. A little bit of water on the bottom of the body, and then push that onto the legs on those cocktail sticks. To create a little frill around the bottom, I'm just using my modelling tool to just press in all the way around. So press in, leave a small space, press in again, and it just creates a nice curved effect on the bottom of her top. Next, take a cocktail stick or a piece of spaghetti. I'm going to run it through the body, but we want probably about 1 inch or so to stick out the top that the head will go onto. Don't push it too far down, otherwise it will come out at the bottom of her body. Next, you want 2 round balls, the same colour as the top that we're going to be making the sleeves from. Just stick them near the top of the body with a bit of water on either side. Make sure they're both the same size as well. Now I've dyed a flesh colour, and I'll put links in the description box below to all the different food colourings and all the equipment that I've used, but this is a skin tone mixed with a little bit of chestnut brown. And I'm rolling a thin sausage shape, and I'm going to take a little piece off that we're going to use for the neck, pushing that onto the cocktail stick, making sure it's a little bit thinner at the top of the neck than at the bottom. Trim that down so the neck's not too long. For the arm, start with a long sausage shape that we're going to roll, and then we're going to put an indent around where the wrist is, leaving us with a little knobbly bit at the end which we're going to pinch down to create a hand. So I've flattened that hand, and what I'm going to do is cut a small triangle out of one side of the hand so that I've got a thumb and fingers, and just play around with the fingers until you're happy with the shape that they're in or the position that you've put them in. And hold the arm against the body so you can measure the length. So cut it to the length you want it to be, and then just check by holding it against the body again that it still looks right. Now I'm putting my arm in an upward position, so I'm going to run a cocktail stick through the arm and through the body so that it stays upright. Just be careful when you're pushing your arm on that cocktail stick that you don't squash your arm and misshape it. Also make sure that your cocktail stick's not too long that it comes out the end of your hand. So I've got the same pink that we've been using for the top. Cut a long thin piece, and we're just going to push little lines in to create a little curved effect, the same as we did on the bottom of the top. And then we can put that around the end of the arm. Just gives her a little frill and it just neatens up that edge we've got on there. Then do exactly the same for the other arm. So onto the head, I've got quite a large ball of the flesh colour, and I'm just putting a slight indentation across the centre so it's halfway up the face, and I'm going to pinch at the bottom to make the chin. Now I've got the end of my modelling tool, and I'm just going to push this straight in to create her a little mouth, and I just widen it slightly with the pointy end of my tool. Tiny little oval of the skin colour for the nose, a little bit of water to just stick that in place again, And you want to keep the nose small, and I'm just using the pointy end of my modelling tool again to just poke in 2 little nostrils. So I'm just rubbing gently with my thumb where I've put the eye area just to make the eye sockets a bit more defined. I'm rolling out a piece of white, roll it nice and thin, cut 2 little circles, just neaten off any little jaggedy edges if your cutter hasn't cut through very well like mine hasn't. So line up the 2 eyes and just trim a little bit off the bottom of each eye. So position them where you want them to go on the face, and then add a little bit of water just to make sure they stick in place. Don't add too much, otherwise you'll find the eyes will slide about the face. So I've got a little bit of brown modelling paste here, just a tiny bit. Roll into 2 balls and then squash each ball flat. Like we did with the whites of the eyes, we're going to trim a tiny bit off the bottom of each one, and then the tricky bit is going to be picking it up and putting it in the eye. So flat bit to the bottom, tiny bit of black this time. 2 circles, nice and small. I'm going to pick these up and put them in the centre of the eye, so just wet the centre or the brown bit of each eye. So I've dropped that little black circle in the middle of the eye, and I'm just pushing it in so it's a little bit flatter with the modelling tool. Eyelashes next. So roll a thin piece of your black and just put a small amount of water around the edge of the eye. If you put too much water on, the dye in the black will seep out and run across the face. So push around the top curve and just trim that off where it gets to that bottom corner. Don't press too hard that you make a mark on the face. Roll some more black really thin, and I'm going to cut off the very point of what we've rolled, and we're going to position that for a little eyelash and stick that in place. You might find it a bit fiddly to pick up with your fingers, so I'm just sticking it on with my paintbrush. Just take a really tiny piece of white that we can put in for a little highlight in our eye, like that. And just do exactly the same with the other eye. For the mouth, we want to fill that little gap we've made with some white modelling paste. Just push it around till you're happy it fills the space. And then I've just put a little line in so you can see the top and bottom set of teeth, and I've just used the knife for that. I'm using some edible pink petal dusts for the cheeks, just brushing that on lightly on each cheek. I'll put the links to this in the description box below the video so you can find where I've got everything from. Now the ears are just 2 small round balls of the flesh colour, so we're going to push those on at either side of the head, quite close to the back of the head, and using the handle of your paintbrush, push that in the middle of each of those balls, and it just gives us a bit more of an ear shape. So I want some yellow modelling paste for my earrings, so I've just cut 2 small pieces. So I've rolled them nice and thin, and we're going to stick them on the ears. So make sure you've got a bit of water around that ear, and we're going to push it on, and then once it's in place, we'll curl it around a little bit. The same for the other one. So just roll 2 tiny little pieces for the eyebrows, making sure there's a little point on either end. Arch it just a tiny bit, and then we're going to stick those in place on the face with, again, a little bit of water. Only a little bit, you don't want too much water on there. So we've finished her face. For the hair, we're going to add some almost like sideburns. So just take 2 small pieces, and we're going to push them so they just come slightly above and in front of the ear. We'll do that for both sides, and then we've got a bit more of the pink that we've used for the top. So I'm starting with a circle and I'm just rolling it out a little bit, and this will become her bandana. So roll it nice and thin, just check it fits over the head. So I'm putting the water on the top of her head and around the back of her head to stick the bandana to, and try and bring it so it comes round to just behind her ears at the back. So I'm going to push it down at the back, and it'll create 2 little creases. But the creases are fine because we'll just fold those over at either side, like that, and trim that extra bit off at the back. Just flatten it down a little bit with your finger. A little bit of water under the head, and we're going to push that in place onto the cocktail stick. Just check that she stands up, because with the head being quite heavy, if it's on too far forward or too far back, she will topple one way or the other. So some little strands of hair now. Just roll 2 small pieces of the brown again. So the same colour we've used for the sideburns, and we're just going to stick those in place with a little bit of water on the edge of her bandana at the front of her head, so it just looks like it's peeking out from under her bandana. So for the tie at the back of the bandana, we're just taking a teardrop shape, and we're going to stick that on the back of her head with a bit of water. So taking more of the brown for the hair, we'll start with 2 round balls. We'll make each one into a teardrop shape, and then we're going to curl round that thinner end that you've brought to a point, bit of water on the fatter end of that teardrop shape, and that will become her pigtail. So we're going to push that at the back of her head, and I'm pushing it onto the backs of her arms so that it's got something to stick to as well. Do that on both sides. So there she is, finished. I would let her have time to dry before you stick her on a cake or anything. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to check out my Jake video, or pop over to my Facebook page to see more of my creations. Thank you for watching.
If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.